Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I'm your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Schneider. This is, while the vibes are not great with the Bears right now, this is a pretty exciting game, all things considered, right? The Cowboys are very much like a shootout offensive team, and the return of the Flus is coming back to Chicago, right? So there's a lot going into this game, Snyder. I feel like I should be more pessimistic, more not excited heading into this game, but my spirits are up.
Yeah, Tom, same. It's gonna be a fun one. You're kind of worried about, Dallas's offense is really good, and the Bears are just coming off a 50-plus point, game. They're giving up those points. So I mean, Tom, through it all, it's gonna be a fun one, regardless.
It should be a fun one, and there's a lot of narratives going into this game. I think it's a very important game for both teams. Obviously, Dallas is 1-1. The Bears are 0-2. Dallas was very close from being 0-2, and they kind of took away that game late in overtime last week against the Giants. So this is going to be a really important game in terms of dictating their seasons. I mean, I think we have lower expectations for the Bears and like the noise they can really make, but if they want to salvage their season and make it somewhat competitive, give us some type of hope, they really have to win this game. I mean, if you start off 0-3, your season's basically over in a lot of cases, especially for this Bears team. So, yeah, an important game, but like it's looking like a fun one. I think it's the third highest projected point total as well. So, like, this is a game that Vegas thinks there's going to be a lot of points scored. It's going to be nice weather in Chicago. Like, there could be a room for a lot of fun is what I'm trying to say. Snyder, before we start off our actual preview of this game, I feel like we'd be remiss to not bring up kind of what has been swirling around in the media. Ben Johnson addressing the team, talking like I guess the quote of the week was he said that our team's practice habits do not reflect a championship caliber team. Snyder, first of all, what's your take on what he said? And then do you have any issues with Ben Johnson saying that to the media? Like kind of calling out his team, I guess.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. So, I mean, as long as he's also taking accountability on his shortcomings, as far as, being 0-2 and, just other mishaps, right? Because it hasn't been perfect. I know I'm not criticizing Ben Johnson or anything. But at the same time, Tom, like, a lot of fans saying, like, oh, this is the accountability, that we've always dreamed of as Bears fans. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that. My concerns are just like, hey, post-game, if you're like, consistently calling out the effort of some players, or then you're, just a couple days later, you're saying, we're not practicing like a championship caliber team. I just fear, Tom, and maybe I'm jumping the gun. To me, that just doesn't really sound like a player's coach. It's not the type of leadership that I think is best, and that's just my opinion. I just think, I think it's hard to have control of your team when you're going to the media like that. So I'm just not the biggest fan in that. I would just say, like, even though, like, you agree with what he's saying, I would rather, to see that be kept in-house rather than going to the media. Because, I mean, there's one player on the Bears roster that has a championship, and I think that's Joe Thuney. Mm-hmm. I mean, what if Joe Thuney came out and said, like, hey, it's not a championship caliber decision, to kick on, before the 2-minute warning against the Vikings, and I'm sure Ben is taking accountability of that. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I think it's a fine line that I don't think should be done.
Yeah, maybe there was a better way he could have went about that. I kind of agree with you in the fact that maybe like talking to the media wasn't the best way to do that, but I'm glad that they're like, I don't know. It sounds like he's trying to challenge his team, which is a good thing. Because there's clearly guys that he feels like need to be challenged without him flat out saying which guys need to be challenged. I don't know who those guys are. I went back and watched, and like, I think just like maybe the execution. I think maybe like getting that stuff in line, like Darnell Wright, like the multiple false start penalties. Like, come on, like we really need to clean those up. You're the same culprit. He's one that kind of sticks out to mind, even though he's played well. I don't want to like criticize him too much, but like just the silly procedural mistakes that are shooting yourself in the foot. I think he's challenging them to clean those up, and then obviously maybe some effort things that he's seeing on tape that maybe they know about that we don't. So I liked what he's trying to do, but yeah, Senator, I kind of tend to lean with you in the fact that like I think you can always kind of keep that stuff in house. You don't ever have to come out in the media. And to be fair, he didn't call out anyone specific. So I don't really think this is like a make or break comment. I'm indifferent about it, I guess, is where I stand at. I kind of like the change of pace, or I guess like the change of tone that he's coming out with, because in the past, Eberflus is like, oh yeah, we have adversity and we handle the adversity. Where it's like, no, like we want better standards to win here. I kind of like that. It's refreshing. But I agree with you. Like, I think there are better ways to maybe not better ways, but I guess ways I would go about it differently, because that no one's perfect. Senator, you mentioned it. Ben Johnson's made his own fair share of mistakes. So who's going to call him out in the media, right? Like, it's like you guys are a team. And I kind of see it how you see it as well.
I guess I sound like such a boomer. Like, I sound so old saying this, but it's just like, hey, you're the head coach of the football team. Like, you were supposed to set the tone, what your expectations are on the practice field and off the field as well. Like, what you expect from your players to do on their off time, putting in work. Like, you were supposed to set that tone. And it's just the timing of it is just weird to me. It's like, you've been the head coach for, it's been a while now. You went through training camp now after you start 0-2. Now, and it just comes off as like, hey, you're pointing the fingers at the players when, you're the one responsible for setting the tone at practice. And that's why I just, again, I know it's not going to be a popular take. I know you can't really criticize Ben Johnson right now. He kind of walks on water. But again, I just didn't, I don't know. I just thought it was a bad look, Tom, overall.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Maybe that's where I disagree with you. I don't think it was like a bad look. I just think like if I could have, like, I would probably not like say that, or maybe I'd phrase it differently.
Yeah.
Because I do like somewhat lighting a fire under your team, and I know there are things to do that in house, but like I also like what I respect about that comment is like he cared. Like you could tell he cares. Like Eberflus, even Nagy, they said the same bullshit coach speak every single week. There was no weight to what they said. I think that like that's what I found refreshing about it. Like he's actually looking at the situation for what it is and addressing it in some way. Now, did he have to like say that word for word what he said through the media? Probably not. But I did like the kind of refreshing take, the realist take of where the Bears were at and where he believes they're at and where they need to get better, because there's actually truth to what he said. So I wouldn't say it was like a bad thing. I just maybe would have handled it a tad bit different. I maybe would have like said it a little less severe. But again, like I think he's right. Like I think he's absolutely right. Like you don't get beat 52-21 if your team's not practicing, or if you got beat that bad, your team is definitely not practicing the way they probably should. So I definitely think he's right. And at the end of the day, like that's what needs to change.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, Tom, and maybe I'm just thinking like way too extreme, and I'll be the first one to admit when I'm wrong. I just always didn't like here. Bill Belichick, it worked for him, like that military general kind of like prick to the media, call out your players. Like it worked with him because he had Tom Brady, but then you've seen guys like Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, Joe Judge, like all those disciples try to coach that same way where like, hey, this is a military institution. And it just makes me fear about like kind of like the overall culture and how much your players, really, I don't know, maybe respect you. And I don't know. I think it does come hand in hand. And even though like all the points that you're saying, I totally agree with, right? Like I don't want a soft ass team that can't handle criticism, right? Like I think there's just like maybe a middle ground that I would rather have seen here.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. It's so early in the season. Like I'm not concerned about the culture yet. Like if things keep going the way they do, then yeah, I'll be concerned. But not concerned about the culture quite yet. And I hear what you're saying, Senator. I think you can run the risk of like when you're constantly, consistently pointing the blame at someone else, you can lose the team for sure. And I think we've seen that with the guys you kind of just laid out. But I don't think we're there yet. And I don't think that Ben Johnson's comments were that severe, like where it was like,
oh yeah,
where he was just like deflecting all blame. Like I think he's taken account in the media for the mistakes that he's made. He's owned up to them. So that in itself is different. But I hear what you're saying. Like you don't want to keep going down this course, I think is what you're saying. And
exactly.
I understand that for sure.
Yeah, no, it's just I mean, maybe I'm going way too deep into it. It was just like one of those things that's like, all right, hold on. I hope this doesn't keep happening because again, that's my long term worry about it. But again, maybe I'm just jumping the gun and overthinking of it.
Yeah, I think that we'll see if this team plays better and stuff like that. The comments will hopefully be more positive. But this is a good get right game for this offense. For the defense, I'm not sure. They could still have their struggles. But Snyder, do you want to jump into this game and really get started with the preview? Start with the offense, honestly, is where I want to start, with the Bears offense.
Yeah, go right ahead, Tavo.
So the story of last week's game against the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys allowed 478 yards of offense to the Giants, right? Russell Wilson kind of looked like vintage old Russell Wilson, which was pretty crazy to see in the Big 25. And the Cowboys just couldn't stop anything. And then the also big headline is Snyder, through 2 weeks, per fantasy points data, the Cowboys have not run a single snap of man coverage. They've exclusively run zone coverage. And when you look at their secondary, Snyder, it makes a lot of sense, right? Trayvon Diggs is coming back from injury. Deron Bland is out with an injury. And then they're starting guys like Kyrie Elam. Kyrie Elam, in terms of per PFF, has allowed the 5th most yards of any corner in the NFL. So, I mean, like, it's been a really, pieced together group, and a group that this defense, the Cowboys defense, has had to kind of like mask around, right? Like really put them in safe coverages, not expose them. And even still, like they're having a hard time, like with the Giants specifically, exactly what you're going to get with Russell Wilson, like what he wants to do. He wants to throw the ball deep down the field, and they still couldn't stop it. So I'm really looking forward to the Bears having a pretty easy matchup. The Cowboys don't, after trading Micah Parsons, they don't really have anybody to threaten the quarterback in terms of a pass rusher. Their coverages are pretty limited because of the secondary that they have. I know this is the return of the Flus, and I'm sure he's going to have a good game plan and try to kind of throw off Caleb and disguise a lot of things on the back end. But when you have such a lack of talent, Snyder, I just think there's only so much you can do to really throw off what Ben Johnson and Caleb want to, and the offense want to accomplish. So I think that the receivers have a total mismatch. I really like them being an X factor of this game for the Bears.
I'm happy to have this conversation, Tom, because, rewind back to the last 3 years of the Bears Pod Boys podcast. We talked about Eberflus commanding a defense with, no pass rush, right? Quarterback having all day to throw. Combine that, what you're saying about their secondary. I mean, this is a game that, and now that we have Ben Johnson and now we have some, more weapons at our disposal, on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, this should be a game where the offense just absolutely feasts, Tom. I mean, this is one that, could really, really get you right back on track. Again, I know we're not talking on the defensive side of the ball yet, but I mean, here, Tom, the over is at 50 points right now, 50 and a half. And I like that over a lot right now. And I feel really good about the Bears offense in this matchup.
I do like the over too. I feel like it's kind of a trap game because both teams the Bears put up a decent amount of points. I know some of that was in garbage time last week, and obviously the Cowboys, that was an absolute shootout of a game. So I think it's a little bit of a trap, but like the way it's looking right now, it's hard not to envision like the offense is dominating this game. Senator, what do you think about Matty Eberflus's return? Like, do you think that's going to play like obviously narratively that they're going to keep talking about it on the broadcast, but like, do you think he finds this game extra special? Like, do you think he's gonna like pull out some tricks out of his sleeve that he hasn't so far to the season? Like, what do you think dynamics really that his return based on how his time with the Bears ended last year? What do you think that those dynamics carry over into this game?
Yeah, you know what? I do think he's going to be more creative. I mean, here, credit to him. You did see him adjust just from your like typical Tampa 2 style defense with the Bears. It got more exotic, it got more modern. And he was like, given the talent that he had on paper, he was a damn good coordinator. Just in that, right? I think he's going to be a lifelong coordinator. I think he could find, a lot of success in that. Tom, I just looking at the talent of these Cowboys, especially the defensive line, Tom. I just don't see the juice there, Tom, to really, give us trouble there. So I think he's a little bit strapped. But yeah, I mean, the narrative on this, Tom, the headline, it's going to make this game that much more interesting, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, like the biggest, not selling point in this game, but like the biggest headline of this game because like the Bears were like a national laughingstock last year under his leadership, right? Like he, in a lot of ways, was a national laughingstock. I'm not saying that was right. Like he obviously made his fair share of mistakes, but and like this is kind of like a revenge game for him. And also, I think like if you look at how the Bears fared against the Lions when Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator, they did a pretty good job of slowing down that offense. Matty Eberflus, historically kind of had Ben Johnson's number in some ways. I mean, it wasn't always like that. Obviously, the Bears had the Lions had their fair share of success against Eberflus, but he usually had a pretty good game plan. The problem is, Steiner, is exactly what you said. This is not a talented defense, so I don't know like what they really could get done in terms of like coming out with something extremely exotic or extremely off the beaten path. Like I'm looking right now, Dallas is 29th in blitz rate. So again, like this is not a crazy like Brian Flores pressure from everywhere type of defense.
Right.
Like I think they're gonna disguise things and they'll blitz situationally, but like they probably don't want to leave a lot of guys exposed in coverage because like they're just so talent efficient. That Micah Parsons trade really changed their DNA as a defense. So yeah, and I'm really curious to see kind of like what the game plan is on both sides. I think this is a good game where the Bears can just look. Their run game is never going to be great, but that should kind of play into their hands this week because the Cowboys' pass defense is so weak. The Bears could really isolate guys and matchups. I know they play a bunch of zones, but like this is a good game I think for DJ Moore to get right. Honestly, Rome Odunze on the perimeter, get him matched up with Kyrie Elam. We saw Neighbors absolutely torch Elam time in, time out last week. So there's just a lot of matchups that I think that will play in the Bears' favor that they can really exploit to jump out ahead on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also, again, I'm loving the improvement from Caleb Williams, but this is going to be, I think, a get right for Caleb Williams type of game, right? I think he's going to be very comfortable in the pocket. And I also think Ben Johnson also going to have a ton of answers, to continue the easy button, right? So, again, feel really, really good about it.
Yeah, and our guy Joseph said this should be a huge test for Caleb. I think it should be too because I'm not trying to discredit his performance against the Lions. I was one of the first people to say he played well. So I'm still under the belief that he did play well, but it was a lot of man, like it was a lot of like, okay, like if it's man coverage, like we're going to exploit matchups. I think the answers were a lot easier to find. Whereas in this one, it's going to be basically, I mean, if they keep going the trend that they did, it's going to be exclusively zone. And I think that puts more onus on the quarterback to kind of figure out the coverage. Where's the right progression within the defense? I think that's going to be more, I guess, tasking for Caleb Williams to figure out. So yeah, I think this is a big test. Even though the defense is weak, you still got to identify the defense. You still got to find the right guys. I'm just looking, Steiner. So per fantasy points data, their coverage distribution. So again, 0% in any type of man coverage, 0% cover 0, 0% cover 1, 0% cover 2 man. But their zone percentage is pretty mixed for the Cowboys. I mean, they're primarily a cover 2 team. They run some cover 3. So 33% for cover 2, 35% for cover 3, 18% for cover 4, and 6% for cover 6. So again, like this is going to be mainly what they're going to be in. And Caleb's got to do a good job Caleb and Ben got to do Ben's obviously got to find the right place to beat those coverages. And then Caleb's got to find the right guys who are going to come open within the progression. So I'm excited to see that. Center, you know who I also think this is a get right game for? Braxton Jones. If you cannot slow down this Cowboys pass rush, then we got to start having a deeper conversation because he was getting beat by Al-Quadin Muhammad last week. Talk about a revenge game multiple times. I mean, he's really, really struggled last week. And this is not a game you should struggle. The Cowboys don't really have the guys to threaten any starting caliber offensive tackle as pass rushers. So this is a game he needs to show out in. So you kind of build confidence for the remainder of the season that, hey, in these easy matchups, you can hold it down.
Yeah, that was the issue, Tom. When you look back at that Lions game, I think the Bears' game plan against Aiden Hutchinson was really smart. I think they were double teaming him. They were kind of knocking him off balance. But then, you left Braxton Jones one-on-one with a league minimum guy in Muhammad, and he was getting absolutely tossed on his ass. Like, that's the problem, right? So I think the game plan was right, but, like, you don't expect, your starting left tackle to just get dominated for guys who are just floating across the league. So that's the worry, Tom. Even against the Cowboys, right? Like, they don't really have any dudes there. Like, they definitely lack pass rush, and they just lack overall dudes there. But at the same time, it's like, you see what Braxton Jones was doing against the Lions when he was on an island, maybe against similar type of dudes. So, again, that's something you really have to watch, Tom. It's kind of sad that you might have to help Braxton Jones out at this point. But, Tom, at this point, my panic button for Braxton Jones, it's already hit. He's just looking like a liability, Tom. But hopefully, maybe he can get right.
Yeah, I mean, this is the game to get right against Snyder. I'm with you. Like, I just think that he has been a problem this year. I know he was a little better in week 1, but like the outing he had last week was just so concerning. Like you said, just like league minimum guys were giving him trouble. And again, I really think this comes back to he is returning from a very major injury. Like, it was never a great expectation to just expect him to be 100% right again so early into his recovery. So I don't want to hold this against him, but like the reality is like if he's going to be a lesser version of himself, it's a very big problem for the Bears. And hopefully it's not a problem in this one because the matchup's so good. I'm just looking at their pass rush grades. Like there's no one. There's a bunch of Al-Quadin Muhammads on this team. No offense. I mean, I had high hopes for Donovan Ezraku, the rookie they drafted, but again, he's a rookie. He's still trying to figure it out. These guys should not give you trouble. You should be able to hold your own. And if you can't, then we got to start having a discussion. And it's even more concerning, Snyder, that Ozzie Trapilo is a healthy scratch. Like they don't even feel comfortable with him as a backup. And this was the guy that was supposed to give Braxton Jones honest competition. So like, there's no, maybe they'll turn to Theo Benedict, but like, there's no like easy answer if Braxton Jones can't figure it out.
No, there's really no one to turn to that you feel somewhat optimistic about. Like, okay, let's give this kid a chance. Like it could be. It sucks that the bar's so low. You risk it actually being worse than Braxton Jones has displayed so far. Because he might just be the best of a really rough bunch right now.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's looking like. I'm looking at the Cowboys run defense, and they are by far actually the Vikings were actually really poor in run defense. That's shocking to me. But the Cowboys are 21st in EPA per rush allowed. I'm just looking at some other stats too, and like success rate and stuff like that. They have a pretty low stuff percentage as well. So they have a pretty decent stuff percentage. So this is kind of like a whatever group against the run. They played well against the Eagles. I think they did a good job slowing Saquon down. Steiner, I'm just not sure what to really expect when it comes to this run game. Like, people call it inconsistent. I really don't think it's inconsistent. I think it's inefficient. And I think that there's issues. I think Swift is obviously probably the biggest issue, but I don't want to sit here and act like the run blocking has been perfect. It hasn't been. It's not all been on Swift, but like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, and I wonder if they're still going to try to commit to it, still try to get it right against a pretty whatever defense. I don't know, Senator, too, with Swift kind of dealing with an injury. I don't know if we do see more Monangai. Do you have any takes on like where this run game goes in this week, and then if they're going to do anything different?
It's so hard to say, Tom. I mean, I would like to see just a little bit of combination of whatever. It's weird. Roshan was healthy this game, but you only see him on special teams, right? I don't think he got not one snap at running back there. I don't know if he's just cooked, Tom. My thing is with Monangai is that Tom, when he is coming out of that backfield, Tom, he looks so slow coming out that just the edge setters, the defensive line are just zoning in on him so quickly. It just didn't look any much better to me than Swift, right? I think with Swift, you hope you get a little bit more explosiveness, but I don't know, Tom. I would still like to see a little bit more Monangai, maybe, more inside with him and then more outside with Swift, or maybe get more creative with Swift on some screen games or something like that, Tom. I don't know. It's just one of those things, man. I still don't see the answer or any improvement, again, out of a bad group.
Yeah, and that's fair. And Snyder, I like the comment that you brought up about getting Swift more on the outside and maybe giving Monangai more of like the in between the tackles, because if this was a game to kind of spam Swift on the outside, this would be a good game to do so. The Cowboys have actually been a lot worse at defending outside the tackles runs. They are the fourth worst team in terms of EPA per rush, at allowing outside runs. I believe in terms of rushing yards per game. I know it's only a 2-week sample. They're also up there as for one of the worst teams. So I think they're the 10th worst. So again, like that actually kind of plays into what the Bears, I think, can do well in the run game. Like if you get Swift out in space, like I think that's where he's at his best. And this is a team you can probably do it against. Remember, this is also a team with their linebackers are not great. They're starting Jack Sanborn. This is a Jack Sanborn revenge game. We haven't even talked about that. It's kind of the legendary Jack Sanborn. And if you get him out moving in space, trying to scrape past the muck and all the offensive and defensive linemen, I think he can also get into some trouble. But again, like the down-to-down run game, the stuff that you can really rely on, I still think that they're going to struggle because I just don't think they have the backs to really like carry that operation. And that's a problem. Do we see more Monangai? Maybe. Does it make that much of a difference? I don't know. I don't think so. But until there's like a clear upgrade in this running back room or what they're doing in the run game, I just can't have high expectations for it. I still think a lot of it's going to fall back on Caleb and how this passing game fares.
Yeah, most definitely, Tom. I mean, I think there's going to be some like productivity. Like, again, it's bad, right? When you look at efficient, whatever. I mean, if you compare it to the first game to the next game, was there an improvement just off the box score stat line? Yeah, right. So I mean, again, you guys maybe take it for what it is. Maybe you just see a little bit more impact than you're getting. I know the standards are so low, but I mean, hopefully it could just trend better than what it is, Tom. Take a little bit of pressure off of Caleb there. But again, I think this is one that Caleb's going to have a lot of time to throw. I think, if you can't figure it out in the run game, find ways to get the ball to Rome, DJ, Swift quickly, right? Maybe some more screens, whatever you have to do, right? So I think this is the game that you probably get a little bit more creative with.
100%. And Center, I saw someone pitch this as well. They're like maybe like get Caleb more involved in the QB run game, and I kind of like that. I think that we saw just a glimpse of it last week. It was on a third down play, and he picked up the first down. They ran QB power. I'm not saying they have to do that like consistently. I don't know if that will ever be a huge part of Caleb's game, but like Caleb is athletic. he can definitely run the ball. And if you threaten him as like an option player, that should give Swift and the other guys more space to work with, just to kind of have Caleb as a threat, because we know he can pull it. We know he can run and get some yards on his own. So maybe that could help a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to like kind of project this thing on a week in and week out basis. They're one of the worst teams that are running the ball right now. And like, for people that think that it's going to get better, like I need to hear the reasons why. Like, why do they believe that? And I'm not closed off. Like maybe it could get better. Maybe they could change. Maybe they could become more of a gap team. I think that's maybe a solution to this, where they're not running as much zone. But until we see that happen, it's hard for me to have high hopes for this team, for this run game.
Exactly. I know. I'm with you.
Center, why don't we talk about the defensive side of the ball? Because this is the matchups I'm the most worried about. Obviously, Jalen Johnson is likely out for the year. This means they're going to be starting Tyreek Stevenson, Nashawn Wright. I think Kyler Gordon still has not practiced, so he'll probably be out of this one. I don't know if Nick McLeod or Josh Blackwell will get the start in the slot. Nick McLeod had a very rough game against the Lions. Center, not only do you have to worry about CeeDee Lamb, which will probably be the priority of what the Bears do from a defensive game plan perspective, but they now have George Pickens as well. So this is just kind of like a Twin Towers nightmare situations for the Bears, that the Cowboys can really lean on either one of these guys to hurt them, to hurt the Bears, I should say. And the Bears just don't, on paper right now, just don't have the horses to kind of deal with it, and it's worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys offense has looked damn good thus far, right? And I think if you go to – they play Eagles week 1, and then they play the Giants week 2. Tom, when it comes to just defensive line in general, the Bears are the worst of that group, right? Like by far, right? And the offense still looked really good for the Cowboys. I know for the Giants, it came on a little bit later. But Tom, Dak I think is one of the most underrated quarterbacks all across the league. He is so poised. He can hit guys downfield, throw it into tight coverage. The guy makes you pay, right? He's a very high IQ. I mean, you give that guy all day to throw, and you combine it with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, a little bit of Jake Ferguson there, Tom. I think he can make us pay. And I think the Cowboys is how underwhelming they are on defense. You shouldn't overlook their offense, right? And what they've done to, in my opinion, a lot better of a defensive rosters than the Bears with the Eagles and the Giants. And again, this is also, we're a lot more banged up in the secondary than those teams as well. So yeah, Tom, I do expect a lot of points for the Cowboys there. I mean, I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be pretty, man.
I don't think it's going to be pretty either. They definitely have the advantage. And yeah, I think there's just a lot for the Bears to worry about. And to give the Cowboys their credit too, I think Brian Schottenheimer has designed a really cool offense. Like, this was not the stagnant Mike McCarthy offense that I thought kind of got Dallas into trouble and ran its course, to where like Dak was kind of looking like the old version of Aaron Rodgers, where they were just calling slants and quick game and stuff like that. I think this has looked like a really cool offense. And that's just going to give the Bears more to worry about. They run motion a ton. They kind of use Kevontae Turpin as like their eye candy guy that kind of gets defenses guessing where the ball is going to go. So like, they've done a lot of cool stuff on top of them having really talented players. Snyder, the one area where the Bears maybe could get after the Cowboys, and again, maybe this is more to do with who they've played so far, but right now, per PFF, the Cowboys are the lowest pass blocking graded unit in the NFL. Their line across the board has not played well in pass protection. I don't know if that has more to do with who they played. They played against the Eagles. They played against the Giants. We know they have stud defensive linemen, a lot better defensive linemen than the Bears. But like, because of how they've struggled, and because I think they have their own issues in pass protection. Tyler Booker's a rookie. Terrence Steele has never been a good pass protector, their right tackle, and they're starting a new center. If the Bears can't generate any pressure against a banged up, growing offensive line that's going to have their growing pains for the Cowboys, who are they going to be able to get pressure against? Like, this is a good test. Like, the Lions, at least we know they've had a good offensive line throughout the years. Like, this Cowboys offensive line's kind of pieced together. It's kind of coming along. There's young guys. If they cannot figure it out against this group, Snyder, there's no hope, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, which is frustrating, Tom, given how expensive the defensive line is. I mean, you paid Grady Jarrett, Deo, I think they're making combined time north of $30 million. Combine that with Montez Sweat, $25 million. Combine that with, some second round investments there, some third round investments there. I know there's not a lot of round one investments there, but there's a lot of investments into our defensive line, right? That if you can't do it against this group, or if you look how you did last week against the Lions, Tom, I mean, that's almost the biggest story of this season, Tom, how the GM put that defensive line together. And if we can't generate any pass rush, Tom, you're going to see more games. It might not be 50 points, 50 points, 50 points, but you're going to see just offenses being just totally in control of the game script there, right? And then at that point, like, how does your offense, what more they could do, right? So again, Tom, this is another game where the spotlight is on the defensive line, and it goes to the GM and how he assembled it.
Yeah, I mean, Center, you're spot on the money. Like, if they can't get home in this game and manufacture some of their own pressures, just winning one-on-ones, I mean, this is a direct shot at the GM and who he's drafted, because it has been such a problem from the beginning of the Ryan Poles era. It has been such a problem. I talked about it on Twitter. I think a major issue, Center, of like where Poles has gotten into in trouble is like he's just given full reign to his coaches. And like the reality is coaches just don't have the time to scout players the way GMs and scouts and that department do. Like they get to the process late. They're worried about game planning every single week. They're not as in the know as these coaches. And I feel like he just lets the coaches make the pick, where it's like, I understand you have to have a relationship. And again, this is all speculation, but this is how it looks like on the outside. I understand that there has to be a relationship where it's collaborative and you're letting your coaches be empowered and pick the guys that they want to fit their system. But at the end of the day, they have to be productive players. You can't just like overlook someone's production and be like, oh, well, he's big and tall, so he'll fit our system and we'll get him in and he'll be better for us. Like that rarely ever works. And Ryan Poles, throughout every coaching staff, along the way, he has just kind of blindly gotten the guys that they've wanted. At least that's how it seems. Bayless Jones, Tremaine Edmonds, Larry Ogunjobi. I mean, the list goes on. Deo, DeAndre Swift. Like Shane Waldron needed a passing down back, DeAndre Swift. And it's just bitten him in the ass every single time. And I think that the current situation that the Bears are dealing with right now is just an accumulation of those mistakes, not checking the coaches, not like offering, hey, like, we need to like focus on picking productive players at this position and not just get the guys that fit your scheme, because the guys that have fit their scheme throughout the Eberflus era, throughout the Bears, or throughout now Dennis Allen's era, just like there was a lot of questions about how productive they could be in this defense. And it's really, really putting them behind the eight ball, really getting them into some trouble. I don't know, Snyder, do you agree with that kind of take? Like, do you see it the same way of how Poles is assembled his rosters in the past and even in the present?
I agree so much, Tom, that I could go on a really long rant about it, but I'll keep it short. I mean, I wasn't mad when the Bears traded Roquan Smith, right? I understood where we were as a team, the financials of it. I totally understand it, right? Actually having Javon Dexter and maybe another round pick, I mean, was maybe a better fit where this team was at, right? But my issue was that, okay, trade aside, you told us that you valued Tremaine Edmonds and his length more, right? That was a better fit for the Bears than Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith's an all-pro player, one of the best linebackers in the league. That just tells me you don't know how to separate individual talent and just scout individual football players, right? It's like the, Taco Charlton, TJ Watt thing, right? Yes. Or the Clelin Ferrell and then, Josh Allen, Brian Burns conversation, right? Like, yeah, Taco Charlton and Clelin Ferrell might be better fits from a measurement standpoint in your defense, but you still gotta, you gotta consider who's the better fucking football player, right? Who is better talent, and that's the issue that I had there. They valued the length of Tremaine Edmonds rather than the elite talent in Roquan Smith, and that Tom, that right there, it's just been the same story, right, for a lot of these players. So yeah, that's my issue, Tom, with that. So I mean, yeah, it's goes to it's trickling down that same logic to the defensive line, a very heavily invested defensive line, and we're not getting what's most important, and that's pass rep disruption. We're not beating guys one on one, causing havoc. Yeah, you got beefy dudes that you're no longer getting tossed in the run game. You're not getting pushed back, 5 yards like when you originally took over, but you invested in things that aren't really moving the needle to win football games, and that's the issue, Tom. It goes back to the Roquan Smith logic. It's just a mess, Tom.
Yep, the 28th worst team, I guess the 28th ranked team in pass rush grade per PFF. And Snyder, you brought up the run game. That's the thing. They're not even like they're not a bad run defense unit. They're ranked 19th right now in EPA per rush allowed. But like based on the investments that you made, pick a struggle, man. Like you should be number one in run defense. If they're as bad as they are, 28th ranked pass rush team, I would love to see like the overall pressures and what the Bears have done. Maybe I can look that up. You should be one of the top teams at defending the run. Like we've seen that all the time. The Ravens, I think, are a great example of a team that they have better pass rushers now, but they're always kind of like a stop the run first team, and then they scheme it up in the blitz game. That's what they do, right? Like they try to confuse quarterbacks. Same with the Vikings. I think kind of the same way. I think they kind of changed where they've invested in better isolation pass rushers, but like they really cared about getting beefy guys up front, stopping the run, and then they could scheme it up on the back end to get their pressure. The Bears don't even do that. They're like a pretty middle of the pack run defense. So yeah, I just pick a struggle, man. Like this defense can't be this bad for this team to be competitive. So Steiner, the last thing I wanted to add before we kind of give our predictions and wrap this thing up, you can always blitz guys, right, when your pass rush is not getting home. But Dallas is the 11th best team per EPA per pass per next gen stats against the blitz. Dak Prescott's got 4%. He's gotten sacked on 4% of his dropbacks against the blitz. So again, you can blitz inexperienced quarterbacks. You can get after the JJ McCarthy's of the world. Yep. It is a lot harder to do that against experienced quarterbacks that know what they're doing and know where to go with the ball.
But yeah, a professional like Dak, again, he's kind of poised, kind of like, again, preseason with Mahomes, what we've seen with Jared Goff. Dak, from a professional standpoint, veteran, he could make you pay in those same exact ways, right? So yeah, again, that's what I'm kind of worried about there, Tom.
Yeah, I'm hoping the pass rush can figure out something. This is the offensive line to do it against, but man, I'm not optimistic. I think this is going to be a game where some points are scored. All right, Steiner, why don't we wrap this up and get into our final predictions? Steiner, who do you have winning this game and why? If you want to give a score prediction, kind of how you think this game's going to go, shoot, brother.
Yeah, I think if the Cowboys are going to take it home, Tom, I am predicting like 34-27. I think it is going to be a shootout that comes late into the game, but I think the Cowboys just have too much, man.
Interesting. I'm going to do something crazy here, Snyder. I think the Bears are going to win this game. I think that hopefully they will be challenged and be embarrassed off the loss that they had last week. And I do think they sneakily match up better with this Cowboys team than they have any team that they've played so far. Again, the Cowboys don't really have anybody on defense to threaten them. I think the Bears win this game in a 31-28 game. Bears kick a game-winning field goal to win it. I'm hopefully that this team will be resilient and bounce back. But it could really go either way. I mean, the Cowboys probably should be the favorite. I'm just going to try to be a little optimistic in this one, and I'll pick the Bears.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the Bears are only 1.5-point dogs, so it could go either way. Yeah, I mean, Tom, they shut down all like the narratives. The Bears this fan base need the W so bad, man. That could really change the us moving forward. But yeah, I could totally see that, Tom. Again, we both agree high scoring game. that could probably go either way. Hopefully, it comes down to the last drive.
Yeah, and another reason I'm picking the Bears is I think that the national narrative about like Caleb Williams and just the Bears in general, like I feel like people are putting the brunt of what's going on right now with the Bears on Caleb, and they're like, I just think like it's so misguided what they're saying. Like he can't process, he's not playing within Ben's offense. Like you're just not watching the games if that's what you think. Like and again, I'm not trying to be a homer, I'm not trying to defend. I'm just saying like you could make the argument that he's not playing as well as you maybe want him to within the structure of the offense. But the fact to say that he's like not trying to is just flat out false. And that's what seems like the national narrative. Like, and I hate to address this stuff, but like Colin Cowherd has made his shows about Caleb Williams' struggles. I'm like, you did not watch the game last week. If you truly think this, you did not watch the game last week. There's a bunch of people that are saying the same tired narrative. And I think that their offense has played a lot better, at least they did last week, to warrant some optimism, Snyder, and to feel like they could actually hang in this game with the Cowboys. But I think that's going to be it for us today, y'all. So until we meet again, we will be back to recap this game. Until we meet again, keep it real and bear down.